Today's Cosplay Con Talk episode is sponsored by Moco Queen Color Contacts. Don't forget to use my code Wayne for 10% off at checkout at mocoqueen.com. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. There we go. How's it going, everyone? Wayne Leone here, and welcome back to another episode of Cosplay Con Talk, where we basically discuss everything pertaining to the cosplay community and conventions. I'm once again joined by Mutt Rib, from who you remember when they were on for the Contact Lens and Cosplay podcast panel last year. I think that was.
Yeah.
Oh God, already a year already. Damn. Um, but this time I'm having on for Get to Know That Cosplayer, where they'll be basically talking about their cosplay journey and experiences, and also what it's like been going to conventions and how they got started. So to begin, as always, with these get to know that cosplayers, how long have you been cosplaying for, and what got you into cosplay?
I so I've been doing like special effects makeup and costuming and all kinds of fun stuff since I was around 10 or 11. Basically, when Lord of the Rings came out when I was like 6 or 7, I got really interested in bonus features, and so it just started from there.
Ooh.
Um, but I've been doing, costuming and stuff most of my life, and then officially started cosplaying in 2017, I think. Yeah,
Hmm,
2017. So
nice.
only a few years, but you know.
3 more years and 3 more years and you'll cosplay. You'll be at that point, as I call a cosplay veteran. You cosplayed for 10 or more years to where you've seen. I think even cosplaying to 2017, you've seen the changes pre-COVID as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Lots of small and big changes, whether they're good or bad,
Mm.
honestly.
There's a lot for sure. What was it like when you first started officially cosplaying back in 2017?
Um, I got into the con world a couple years before that, probably in like 2014-ish, I think. Um, I had a friend who does Artist Alley, and she was like, "You should come with us and hang out or whatever." Mostly because she didn't want to go to Yakima by herself. So she just wanted me to come drive with her. And so that was like my official con that I ever went to was Yakima Con. I don't remember what it officially was called, but very small little hotel con. And, it was just it was really cool. Like I come from an art world where it's more fine arts and things like that, and did that work for like 10 years, and got really burnt out and kind of jaded. Just there's a lot of personalities that it's just hard to deal with sometimes. And so coming from a creative place where it was like more of a gallery art show kind of environment to like a Comic-Con was like, oh my God, everyone, well, most people, everyone's pretty happy here, like everyone's excited to kind of be there and dork out with each other and talk about their art stuff and talk about the fandoms they like and cosplay and everything. And I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. There's still its ups and downs, but it was a culture shock for me because I knew about cons and things like that from other friends, but had never really like gone to one and like been in it. Um, so that was definitely like the beginning. And then after that, I got into Artist Alley stuff. And then eventually it was just like, oh, I can cosplay while I do this too and like have fun because that's been a hobby of mine since I was younger. And honestly, I would have probably done like costuming as like a degree if it wasn't so expensive.
No, no, from what I've been told, it can be pretty pricey up there.
Yeah, so I wasn't about to go to school for costuming and set design, just by realizing how much money that was going to be. And then, coming across cosplay and stuff was just like, oh, I can, well, not do it for free, but I can do it for like a fraction of the price and have, maybe not as much pressure, just a more organically fun time with it.
Oh yeah,
So
no, I mean,
I latched onto it very quickly after I got into it.
well, that makes sense because I mean, I'm not disrespecting those who go to school to have a degree in fashion design and everything, but I feel like freelancing it, you set your own time, or
Mhm.
when you're doing commissions, you have a set budget and everything, so that makes sense. Um, so Yakima is a if I'm not mistaken, Yakima is a fairly small town or city in Washington.
It's very tiny. I remember when we went up there, I was just like, oh, there's like, it's kind of similar to my hometown. I'm like, there is about 4 whole blocks of downtown. It's like a very, very tiny version of Portland, I would say. Like it's if Portland was cut into four, just the downtown area, that's about as big as Yakima when we drove through it. I was like, oh, we already drove through all of it. But it was cool. It was a very small con, but it was also maybe a better introduction to cons, just in the sense of like not being super overwhelmed and, it not being super crowded and everyone seeming pretty relaxed and not, overwhelmed.
That
So,
that makes sense. As I say, I give cons. I separate cons into two distinctive things. Small cons are your Disneyland, big cons are your Disney World.
yeah.
You want to start with Disneyland before you spend a lot of money to go to Disney World
I'm
because
gonna
the
start
bigger.
with Knott's Berry Farm first.
No, yeah, just thought no, that's better. Knott's Berry Farm, Disneyland, Disney World
Cheaper
because
tickets too.
you got your small cons which are fairly priced, 10, 15, $20. You
Mhm.
got your bigger cons which are anywhere from your medium-sized cons which are from the 30 to $50 range. You got your big cons which can be anywhere from 50 to 100 to 200 to even more,
Yeah.
depending on, what each has. So Yakima Con, what was that like and if you remember, what was your very first cosplay for that con?
I actually didn't cosplay for that con. I hadn't really gotten into that part of it yet. I really went just to keep my friend company because otherwise she was going to be going by herself.
And you didn't want that. You made sure that they had their convention exit buddy.
Yeah, exactly. So basically most of that con we just sat around. We played a lot of rummy. It was pretty slow. Lots of rummy. We still talk about that. Every once in a while I'll see her at a con and I'll just be like, hey, do you want to play some rummy? And she'll just be like, no. Because that's basically 90% of what we did. I drew a little. We just kind of hung out and doodled. And then I think because it got to a point where there was like just really nothing to do, I started like pressing her buttons for her. And I think I did like over 200 or so like one day just because I was like, I need something to do. I'm going a little crazy back here. But it was decent. I don't even remember if I walked around much besides going to one other friend's booth to chat for a little bit, but yeah, it was just really simple and really, yeah, just very laid back. And, you know, it was just nice though to be around people that weren't um being weird artists, I guess. Just, the gallery scene is very different than it is at a con or artist alley. So
Oh, I imagine. I mean, I've seen my fair share of artist alleys from big to small, and depending on the size of the con, there's a lot to do. There's not a whole lot to do, but I can't imagine being at a con just like twiddling your thumbs basically for hours on end before you finally beg
yeah.
your friend to take over sales while they, just sit
Yeah.
and
I mean, we
relax.
had a decent time. We made each other laugh and just, hung out. But yeah, it was a decent con to go to just to kind of get introduced to it. But yeah, I don't know if it's even still happening after COVID,
I
but
mean, I know a lot of small cons just
yeah, it was at I think a DoubleTree.
that I've noticed a lot of cons further up in the Pacific Northwest, small cons take place at a double tree.
Hmm. They tend to have a decent ballroom. So,
That's what I've been hearing. I've never
mhm.
been to a double tree myself, so I can't really say. I've only been to one hotel, like two hotel cons, and like in their little small convention room area, but I can't imagine being like a much bigger con in a ballroom.
Yeah, I think the whole con itself was probably the size of like a school gym. Like
Mhm.
it was
Checks
a
out.
ballroom and then I think a few panel kind of rooms, and then there were guests in with the artist alley. I think it was free to get into too. Or maybe like $10 or something. Like that was a very very small con.
So, Yakima Con, you just finally dip your toes into the con scene. What else was the con scene like shortly after? Like, it sounded like you got the itch and you wanted to go to more and like dive deeper into this hobby, this community.
Yeah, as I mentioned, like I came out of the more fine arts Portland art scene and did that basically from right when I got out of high school. And then for like the next 10 years or so, was just really heavily involved in all of that from like volunteering to coordinating to actually being an artist in shows to being like a gallery director or manager and just, kind of everything. And it wore me out.
Oh, it sounds
um,
like it.
it was rough, and a lot of it was just based around the idea of like, if you look at like what a gallery kind of is for art places, and not all of them are like this, but I would say a majority, there's always somebody who has a really big ego who wants to be, wants the title and then wants to like kind of be in charge of everything and not really there for like the community aspect of it.
More for the profit.
Definitely like two of the people I worked for were very for profit about it. And with that, it causes a lot of dog eat dog environments for people. And so, the work I was doing, even if I was like, okay, you're the gallery manager, you work with the artists, you make sure they have what they need or whatever. I want to say like 80% of my job was actually fighting the owners about making sure that artists were getting paid, that they were responding to emails, that their art wasn't being lost, things like that. It was just very Wild West. And, um, by the time that I was, you know, we had a joke where I was like, oh, I'm going to retire from this. And then I would get roped back into it because people needed help and stuff. And I genuinely just wanted things to go well for people because I am good at managing and I'm good at organizing and stuff. And so it just was like, oh, I want to get out of this because it's so stressful and it's so not what a community is. But also, I feel like, I know that I'm only one of the very few like people that can actually help and make things go well for people. And so there was a weird obligation kind of guilt around that. And so, I was constantly kind of going back to it. And then after the last gala I worked at, I was like officially just like, all right, I'm done. No one can tell me anything now. But in that meantime, part of it was, doing gallery stuff and then still going to cons. So like I used to work at Rose City when it was still, I remember when there was like 6,000 people in attendance.
When it was
And
in this infancy and everything.
it's just, yeah, I was like, oh my goodness, this thing is huge now. But so I used to work at Rose City and was slowly getting more and more involved there too, and just seeing like, again, the environment's a lot different. There's a lot more people who are just in general stoked to be there and talk to people and interact and again, like just nerd out. And it's very, you know, you can probably guess why I was just like, oh, I want this. I want this thing, I want to get out of this other thing really bad. This is where I should change where my creativity and my, efforts and my energy is going to. So by the time it was, yeah, like 2017, I was really, really trying to pull out of the gallery world and get more into cons. And so I started going to a lot smaller ones. There was HaruCon, which was a small one at PCC, which is our community college up here. That was cool. It was another little free con that was just one day and,
Nice.
ran by the anime club. And Chibi Chibi Con was another one that I got into.
I've heard of Chibi
Yeah.
Chibi Con. I've heard that quite a lot on
Mhm.
here and on my Discord server.
Yeah. I say this with heart and sympathy, but it's a really good con in the sense of, yes, it's not a super tiny con, and it's not a huge con.
It's in
It's a good
between.
one to just kind of step into, but the last couple years, the organization has been very up and down, and a lot of that too is again, one person just kind of wanting to be in charge of everything and having the ego. And luckily, that person has been replaced
Well, that's
as of
good.
last year. But now you have like basically a whole new team
Who's
trying
just
to
like kind of figure out
figure it
what the
out.
fuck they want to do.
It's yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's already a very established con, and so, to just have like a whole new team on that and just be like, okay, here you go run this, and they're just all like, they're doing their best. I feel like next year will be a lot better.
Yeah.
But that's also why it's important to give feedback. So
I
when a con
mean,
asks you for feedback, you must please just give it so that
not
they
gonna
can.
say any names, but I've seen how one con recently responded to the feedback and how they're gonna change, but
I wonder who you're talking about.
we'll see.
I wonder.
It's the name of a
Yeah.
sauce.
Just, again, egos
Oh yeah,
and
no, I feel like
such.
feedback. I feel like feedback is important. Anyway, back onto the topic of you going to cons.
Mhm.
Um, what was like your next con that really just like, okay, I want to not just attend these as an attendee or, you know, that means you not just want to attend as an attendee, but also someone who wants to have their own booths, because I've noticed you've been having your booths too at cons as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I started off having a booth in Artist Alley. Um, most of just financially, I wouldn't really go to a con unless I got a booth so that I could at least try to make some money back, even if it was like a smaller local one. Um, and so I focused more on that. And then as I was going through more and more smaller cons and making more friends and stuff, splitting the booth was a huge help with that too. And then, if you're gonna like split the booth with someone who also enjoys cosplaying, it's like, well, you want to like cosplay together and, hang out at the booth and, make it a whole thing. And it just slowly grew into being I definitely enjoy having a booth at conventions in the sense of like sharing my art and, getting to chat with people. Um, but it's, just that one more little like fun piece of also dressing up and, people being like, oh, I know who you are, or, seeing people that are in the same fandom walk by and you're just like, oh, So it's definitely it was a very slippery slope for me of just being like, oh, I'm going full in. Oh, we're going 120% on this.
Oh man.
Um,
How many cons have you been to since 2017, if you can remember?
mm, I don't even know. Honestly, I've done so many little like pop-up cons or bigger cons too. I would say, okay, so by the time it was the end of 2016, I was doing the gallery and Comic Cons, and I do remember at the end of one year I'd counted and I'd done like 56 shows in one year.
Is that both
Which,
galleries and cons?
yeah, so I
Holy
was doing both things, and that was don't do that. Nobody do
jeez.
that.
I mean,
It's not good for your health.
if you do, just make sure you get enough sleep and everything.
Yeah. No, I was that was the beginning of the end for me with the gallery stuff because that's not a healthy number at all. I think
No.
most artists or
Like
most people
how are
that
you
go to
still
cons.
like, but did you
Yeah.
die?
I think most people probably do maybe once a month became a goal for me after that, just to go to like one thing, just to have something to look forward to and, still be involved in it. Um, there's definitely a couple cons that I go to like regularly each year that is like Chibi Chibi, Kimura Con, Annie Medford now in the last couple years. I went to Sakura Con a couple times. I don't know how I feel about
Oh no,
it.
I've seen the stuff on. I mean, no disrespect to cons in general, but I've seen my fair share of things about that on Instagram
Yeah,
and Facebook. So we don't need to dive deep
yeah,
into that. But I
it's a
know,
lot.
and not recently, you went to a con in uh Tucson, Arizona, or was it
Oh, yeah, we went to Phoenix.
Phoenix?
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's the first time I've gone out of the West Coast and the first time I've like flown and traveled to like a con. So that was
Hmm.
exciting. My friend had a booth, and so she didn't want to go by herself either. So I'm like the default person who just likes to go on adventures and go, see places and
You're like
stuff.
that one party member in a D&D group was like, I want to pick you because you'll get us through this dungeon.
Yeah. No, I'm always down for a side quest for sure. And I come from LA, and so I really like it when it's warmer. I like the sun. I miss it a bunch. And living up here in Oregon, it's very limited.
Very, very cloudy, rainy.
Yeah. So my friend's like, I'm gonna go to this con that's in Phoenix, but I don't want to fly by myself. And, I've never, done this, solo. And I was like, well, I would go with you. I'm like, any chance to kind of get out of the the overcast, I'm for it. So we went, and it was a pretty fun weekend. That con also had its ups and downs. And, speaking of the heat, like it
Oof.
was, you know,
Good old triple digit weather. You don't see that.
yeah,
You rarely
I'm
see
just
that up
thinking,
here.
I'm
You have to
like,
be
oh,
in
you guys are
California.
not used to this in cosplay. Oh no, like, oh my
For someone who used to live in California and
God.
Reading, I'm used to the triple
Okay.
digit. I'm used to the triple digit weather. So you got to prepare for. And I think sure you can agree with this that if you're going to travel out of out of town or out of state, a place you've never been to, check the weather. Just check everything before you just don't be like, oh, dude, I'm gonna go here and like, wait, why is it hot? Why is it cold? Why are so
Yeah,
many things going
you
on?
step off the airplane and you just turn into a puddle. Yeah, no. We definitely checked the weather before we went, but the way the con kind of handled it was the day one was like really like sketchy. And then the second day was better. They had AC, like I'll tell you, like Phoenix knows how to put AC in places. Like they do not mess around. Like actually I was kind of cold most of the weekend we were there just because it was crisp.
Oh, I mean, that's good. I just, hopefully cosplayers, dressed
Yeah.
accordingly.
That's where it kind of got yeah, dangerous just because it was its first year in that city, and I
Ooh.
don't think they planned thinking ahead in the sense of like, okay, we have all these cosplayers that are coming, just attendees in general, and they didn't let them in until con had started. So you have people lined up outside in 100-degree weather, and every morning we were in Phoenix, the temperature was over 100 by 10 a.m. So you can see where that went.
Oh. Ah.
Yeah. So, it was fun. It was definitely like a different type of con, just to
hmm
be in a different city like that. But yeah, it was fun. It was cool. I definitely want to try doing that more.
Nice. Let's see. So now to get in some questions about cons. Starting off, when someone wants to go to their first con, what's some advice you would want to go for someone who wants to go to the first con, and advice for someone who wants to go to their first out-of-state con, whether it's a big or small con?
Um, I would say first definitely try to go with somebody. Um, just in the sense of like, especially if you've never gone to a con before, big or small. Being able to kind of figure it out together so that you're not just instantly lost. Because one thing that I used to work too in like outdoor festivals, like big scale things. And so I've done events for a while, and, having people lost and not knowing who is staff is, a thing. So just to have like a buddy to just be like bouncing ideas off each other and being like, oh, we should check with this person, or oh, go over here, stuff like that. Is especially at a bigger con, it can be so disorientating. Some convention centers are a giant circle and you don't really know where you're at any given time, and some
Oh,
of them are laid out weird. So
I've been to my fair share of those Komori Con and SAC anime, so
mhm.
I'm all too familiar with the layouts of big cons.
Yeah, it can be very hit or miss with directions too, or maps. That's one of the things I'm not super stoked with Soccer Con is they don't really have they drive people to just go straight to an app versus having maps out for people. And it's kind of like, well, not everyone's going to download this and not everyone has a
A
phone.
phone, no,
Yeah,
and
so
no disrespect to SoccerCom, but I feel like a physical map would help because, like you said, not
yeah,
to mention, and you can agree with this, sir, internet service, Wi-Fi service at a con
exactly.
suck.
Yes. That's the other point to that. And I was just like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, just give me an old school map. I need a poster on a wall, please.
Similar to this, you are here.
Yeah, exactly. I need that star. But
Do
yeah,
not go to this
so
area. You're not a high left level. You're not
yeah,
high enough level yet.
exactly. Yeah, but yeah, just try to go with a buddy, in case it gets overwhelming for you and you can just hopefully have a better time with that. Definitely, especially if you're going to be cosplaying. I cannot stress enough how much you need to drink fluids
Speaking of,
before.
I need to get my water.
Yeah. What are you doing? We got to lead by example out here, right? I'll grab mine too. But yeah, definitely stay hydrated. It's another slippery slope of, being okay to having a wig headache, to being overheated, to just not having a good time. So,
And energy drinks do not count as a food source.
yeah. So, especially since if you're traveling outside of cons too, not every city has water that's delicious.
You don't want that
So,
stagnant water. You don't want that ass
you
tasting water.
know, just trying to stay hydrated at least.
Oh, I completely understand that all too well.
Yeah. Another big thing, which I've helped people with plenty of times too, is bringing an external battery for your phone because the amount of times I've had mine, but some random person is just like, I can't find an outlet and my phone's dying and I need to get a hold of my friends. Like, I'm just like, I got you. We've been through this too many times. I got
You'll need
you.
to buy a battery bank for me for my phone.
Yeah. So, just being prepared in that sense. And then also maybe even if they're flip-flops or whatever, carrying a spare pair of shoes for when you're about to leave or when you're taking a break. Cause uh, most of it's a concrete floor or a very
Hmm.
thin carpet. So you're walking on that like all day. And you're
Hmm.
gonna be walking all day.
And I don't know how cosplayers can like, walk on a con floor barefoot, especially if they're like when they're like wearing tights or the thigh high or knee
Mhm.
high socks and everything. Your feet gotta be uncomfortable if you're walking at a con barefoot, but I get it. Your heels are killing you, but like even like slippers
Mhm.
would be a good backup instead of walking on a con floor barefoot or wearing your socks or something.
Yeah, and that's actually something that my volunteer coordinator for Rose City would tell us every year. He's like, I don't care if it's just another pair of sneakers, just put your feet in something else afterwards. So,
No,
yeah.
that's some pretty sound advice. And you already talked about and we already discussed about, as I call it, um bring a convention exit buddy, whether it's, a friend or a, emergency service animal,
Hmm.
because I know like there are people who, have so bad anxiety that they'll need to bring their emergency service animal too with them.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of etiquette that goes with being prepared at a con too for the first time. Definitely, cosplay is not consent, asking people to
Travel
take
not equal
pictures.
consent. It's something I always do when we bring that up. I have to look at the camera directly at people and tell them that.
Yeah. So there's especially you want to talk about pre and after COVID, like the etiquette of going to a con definitely needs to be reestablished. I feel like not to be like, oh, young kids and blah, but like there's a lot of newer kids that don't know
Mm-mm.
certain things or, especially too, if you go to a con and it's one of your first ones and you're just super excited, you're running around and there's a lot of little subconscious things that people will do that are either annoying or not safe or, just not not proper etiquette,
Oh
but
no,
you
I'm
know,
I wholeheartedly understand that. Also, just and I'm sure you can agree with this, for any first-time congoers, just know there's a chance that you are probably gonna feel like crap after con.
yeah.
Good old con crud.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, just being aware of certain things like, yeah, asking people for pictures, introducing yourself. Oh my God, if you're a photographer, please introduce yourself. It is crazy to me that, the amount of people I've had come up to me alone and just be like, I'm going to take pictures of you. And I'm like, who are you?
I
Why?
mean,
Why are you being so aggressive about this?
even
Just being like,
if
hey, can I take a picture? And they'd be like, yeah, cool. Or just being like, hey, I work for this con and I'm doing media and pictures. Can I get a picture of you?
it's not that
That's it.
hard. Someone
Yeah.
someone who does that for cons, it's not that
Hmm.
hard to go to a cosplayer or, someone who runs a booth and ask, "Hey," and if they say no or not now, respect their authority.
Exactly. Especially, being on the artist alley side of it too. People that walk around and record while they're walking, and it's
Hmm.
obvious that they're, recording booths and stuff, or people who come up to booths and just start taking pictures of art without asking. Honestly, guys, most people are going to be like, if someone comes up to them and goes, hey, can I take a picture of this? I'm trying to show a friend who's not here, if they like this print or not. Most of the time, an artist is going to be like, yeah, that's totally cool. But, especially with the AI nonsense that's going on, it's a very protective feeling of being like, do not take pictures of my stuff because I don't know what you're going to do with it. And I don't know where it's going after, so there's only been a couple of times where people have come up to the booth and gone to take a picture, and I've just put my hand over it and just been like, no pictures, no, 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 and they're like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. But even then, I'm like, just ask. Very, very simple.
Etiquette is not that hard.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of different things that I wish a lot of people knew about coming back to cons and that I feel
Well,
like we're definitely a lot more established beforehand, but even more so now, things have changed a bit. So,
oh
you
yeah,
know.
no, it's definitely changed, and
Mhm.
and as I've said it before, and I've even did a podcast about it, is how COVID changed the con scene.
Mhm.
I mean, and also if you see people at a booth wearing a mask, just respect them. They just want
Mhm.
to. It's just more of a safety thing, not just for the person at the booth, but also the person running the booth. Is because they're at a big con around people, a lot of people they don't know, and who knows what people have.
Mhm.
So it's rather be safe than sorry than,
Yeah.
go
Or they're
home.
doing it pretty consistently too. So they're
Oh,
going
that,
around different huge groups of people and then they're in front of you and it's like they're
yeah,
just trying to be safe about it.
because no one wants to see a post on Instagram saying, "Hey, so and so or myself got COVID at a con, so for those who are around me, please get tested."
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and you don't know if you don't know if you'll have you don't know if you have COVID until you go home and have the symptoms and everything.
Yeah. No, especially after the con which shall not be named that made a post today.
Mm, mm-hmm,
It's not always ideal conditions or, people for that instance, were promised certain things that did not happen.
mm-hmm.
So
And that's specific. Don't come after me. We're just stating facts about how you can do better.
he's got facts. I was there. I saw it.
I mean, I've heard my fair share about that, and this is even like your most renowned cons nowadays, your more popular cons are just kind of just they're not what they used to be. We're not going to get into that. That's for a whole entirely different.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
like, you guys want to see me mad?
so now on to conventions that you plan on going to. So as I call it, conventions you plan on going to and cons you would love to go to. It's like as I call it, it's a dream con that you would love to
Mm.
go to, but it's not in the budget right now.
Um, so cons I'm gonna be going to for sure. I'm gonna be going to Anime Washington in Spokane. Um, I'm gonna be helping a friend with their booth,
Nice.
as as I do. And then after that is Annie Medford
Yeah,
for
September
sure.
21st to the 22nd for those who want to know.
Mhm. which you will also be at. So
Well, I
we can
mean,
high
it's
five in
it.
person.
I mean, I work for the con, so
Mhm.
I gotta be there.
Yeah. So I'll definitely be at those two. I will be at KomoriCon as well. And then besides those three, I am not 100% sure unless something else pops up. Um, the only reason I'm going to Spokane is because somebody asked me to help run their booth. So, it's my my schedule is randomly popping up with new stuff.
Oh, I know,
So,
and I know Anime Washington is ran by the people who run the Washington Summer Con and Polyalab, and they also have their other one, their gaming convention as
mhm.
well. So they got like two new conventions added to Washington, which I think will be nice. It'll give people more of an option and not just the big major cons like PAX, ECC, or Soccer Con, which
Yeah.
ECC and PAX are probably some of the best cons up there in the Washington area from what I've seen and heard.
Yeah, I've never been to either of those. I've been to SoccerCon, but the other ones I haven't. But for people who don't know about Washington, it's very spread out, and it's a lot of small towns, and um, so yeah, I'm happy for more cons to be happening in general, just because you've got people who can't make it out to those bigger ones, so they
Mm.
have these other options in smaller towns,
And plus
which I
Tri
think is
Cities
really
is gonna
awesome.
plus
What's
Tri
that?
City plus Tri Cities is gonna be getting a new con next year.
Yes.
Powerhouse
Yep.
Comic Con, run by the same people who run the ones down here, which I think will be good.
Yeah. I think you were saying they run
Yeah,
6 of them.
I think yeah, they have a total of six.
Yeah.
That's again, that's impressive. Um, but that is neither here nor there. What is your dream con? A con you would love to go to, but it's not in the budget right now. Because trust me, there's a lot of big cons out there that people want to go to, but it's like, yeah, I don't have the money for you, and you're too far away. Oh,
Yeah.
I just saw a cat. I see a cat tail.
This is Teddy Bear.
Teddy
Yeah.
bear, huh?
Yeah.
The cat we always see on your Instagram.
Yes, this is the
And
infamous
plus,
bear.
with this being the channel, we always love pet cameos.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
he is 100% a lap cat, but he will say hi.
hi, teddy bear.
Um, but yeah, no, this is Teddy Bear, and yes, if you follow me on Instagram, I'm pretty sure you guys know who he is. But yeah, the Dream Con. Honestly, I would just love in general to go to more California cons.
Ooh, I mean, you got Anime Los Angeles, San Diego Comic Con,
Oh God, not San.
Sec. I will say Sec Anime is definitely a con worth going to.
That's what I've heard, and I've been told like, oh, you definitely should go to this one. So that's definitely like in the
I
works.
I highly recommend, and there's well, I mean, depending on the money you have, there's literally
Mhm.
a hotel, the Sheraton Grand, that's literally right next to it.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of hotels and near the con, and on Sundays it's free parking.
Oh.
I think I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I haven't been since 2019, so don't
Oh,
quote
okay,
me on.
yeah. No, I've been told definitely to try that one out by multiple people. I just honestly like I'm from California, so it's just like a thing of like, ooh, I want to go back home to a con. That would be so fun. I still have, quite a few friends that are down there too. So just to be able to like be with them at a con would be really cool. Not San Diego Comic Con. I've actually accidentally attended it,
Oh no,
which was too much.
that yeah, I feel like just going for one day because
Mhm.
as it's been told, San Diego Comic Con,
Yeah.
like there's stuff to do outside for free, but like
That's
if
the
you want,
thing. You don't even have to get a ticket.
oh
There's
exactly,
so much outside of the
but
con.
if you want to go in, it's literally as a buddy of mine has said, it's the lottery system. Try to get tickets because
Mhm.
tickets just go like that.
Yeah.
And you got Anime Expo, which hmm,
I I felt so much secondhand shame with that one.
hmm,
Because the second, I think it was last year, the second they kind of said where it was,
hmm,
or like where it was being held, and I was just like, oh my God, that is not where you need to be. Just because I'm from that area and just could imagine the traffic, the
hmm.
parking situation, the
Oh, you
crowds.
can
I was
watch
like,
videos of like the videos look pretty
mhm,
when they're showing off the giant exhibitors hall, but like
Yeah.
the lines,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
lines. No, no, no,
I
no.
know. I was seeing like people taking video in Little Tokyo, and I was just like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry for you guys. I feel so bad." I'm just like, I can't even imagine because that area anyway is like already kind of crowded or busy, and then to throw a Comic-Con into it, oh my God. I was like,
Mm,
oh, oh no.
mm.
I just shed a little tear for y'all on that one.
Oh man.
But yeah, honestly, just about any con that's back in California, I'd love to go to, mostly just so I can, go with friends that are down there and go. Um, so I wouldn't mind either going to ones that are like out of the country because I would be more interested too in like just seeing what it's like to go to one that's like, not in the US. Because I know what kind of goes on here, but to like kind of see,
Yeah, yeah.
just the different kind of culture aspect of it.
And
Um,
there are some good Supernova in Australia is pretty good
mm,
from what I've heard 'cause,
actually, my friend lives down there, so I should probably figure that out.
I've talked to people who live over there who are cosplayers who run businesses and they attend or booth at Supernova in Sydney.
Hmm.
Well, well, Supernova has a bunch of different cons in Australia, but it's a pretty good con from what I've heard.
Yeah, I actually think my friend went last year because he sent me pictures while he was at their convention center. So I was like,
Nice.
"Oh, cool. Did you go?" And he's like, "No, we just were at the same building." I was like, "Oh, okay." He's just like, "I was just thinking of you." I was like, "Oh, cool." But yeah, that would be
Nice.
fun to go to. Um, yeah, honestly, I just want to like go check out all the fun stuff and see other people because, I know a lot of how it is in the Pacific Northwest kind of area, and I've gone to just about every small to medium sized one at least that's up here. So just to
Nice.
kind of explore and check other stuff out would be pretty cool.
If there's one thing I've noticed about the Pacific Northwest when it comes to cons, the more well-known sought after cons are anime conventions and gaming expos.
Hmm.
From what I've noticed, I mean, yeah, the Comic Cons are like, the Comic Cons are up there, but like it's anime, gaming, and then Comic Cons.
Yeah.
From what I've noticed, the past since I've lived here since 2018, and from what I've heard back in like 2009, like it's the anime and the gaming ones are like the most sought after people want to go to ones.
Yeah, I don't know exactly why that is, but definitely going back home, there's like a much heavier comic culture
Hmm.
down there.
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
definitely.
but that's also like, Hollywood and Los Angeles are all down there, and that's where most media is made. So it's, it makes sense. But yeah, I definitely would say yeah, anime and gaming up here
Oh
is a
yeah,
big deal.
definitely. Now on to cosplay questions. Advice for someone who wants to get into cosplay for the first time but does not have the budget, like
Mm,
stuff you would recommend from, whether it's thrifting or commissions or stuff like that. Because let's face it, this hobby's not cheap.
it is not. It is not. Um, yeah, I would say in general, go for it. In the sense of like being a creative person, someone who likes to build and make things. Um, if you want to try making something, like I would say go for it. Like just see if you can make it happen. And if not, you're gonna definitely learn, a lot along the way. Um, budget wise, definitely like upcycling. So, going to a thrift store or finding hand-me-downs or just, whatever, and tracing your own pattern with stuff that fits you, stuff like that. I do that a lot. I actually have like a lot of specific shirts that I just use to trace so that I can like, I know that
Nice.
this shirt fits me. I'm gonna remake it.
That's actually pretty clever, honestly. I've seen some cosplayers do that. Well, they'll take like their pants or their shirt or something and, boom, here's something I
Yeah.
can like contort to my body.
Yeah, it takes a lot of the guessing work out if you have something too that already kind of works for you, and then you can just tweak it how you need to for whatever the costume is. Um, yeah, even though it's especially after COVID hit, for some reason, thrift stores are like, oh, this t-shirt's now $8 for no reason. You can still find pretty cheap stuff, and it doesn't have to like necessarily match or anything. Something I actually really enjoy seeing is people who do like the casual cosplays, you know? Yeah.
Sorry, as someone who's been casually cosplaying for a long time, I love casual cosplay because it's cheap and you can find stuff a whole lot easier if you're going Amazon or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, it's nice to see people who are like also comfortable in their cosplays. Because there's certain props or armor or whatever, and it's just so hard to move in. And so, you know, I like that there's now more of a relaxed day happening at cons just because people can still enjoy and show that they like appreciate what they're into, but not have to necessarily maybe suffer for it. um, so I would definitely go with something that if you're starting out, do something you really enjoy. Don't do what's popular. That's nonsense. Forget about all that.
I
Do
mean,
something you like,
oh,
and
that's
then
no,
yeah,
I can't argue with that.
exactly.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah. Do something you like. Um, if it comes down to it, maybe just go for like a casual cosplay, especially if you're maybe not you don't know how to sew or build quite yet. Um, Honestly, people are gonna appreciate that you dressed up. End of story. So,
I mean, I can't argue with that because when it comes to casual cosplay, you can get away with that when it comes to like anime characters, sometimes video game characters pending, and comic book characters.
hmm yeah. And then also, highly recommend watching videos on YouTube on how someone else has done your character, or even if it's like just a part of the craft. So, like, for instance, and I grew up doing this anyway because it was a cheaper option to do it. But if I wanted to do like a graphic for a t-shirt or fabric,
Mm.
um, most people would be like, oh, I need to screen print that or whatever. I'm like, or you could take freezer paper and iron on the wax side like a stencil and then go over it and peel it off. And like, so there's like all these different ways of actually doing something that, people can use for different things that they need. And I wouldn't just watch one person. I would watch, for any one thing you're trying to figure out, watch at least 3 videos on how someone else has done it because each of them is going to show you something that either is going to tailor more to what you can afford and do, or it's going to help you see it like a simpler or just, maybe better way of doing it. So, don't watch don't watch like a big cosplayer's video where they have all these, all this gear and all these machines and stuff that will like, oh, here's how I made it. And you're just like, oh, great. Like I don't have a 3D printer or a laser cutter or anything like that. So I would say even if, I know a lot of people get excited with the bigger cosplayers and how they do things, but again, the majority of us are not, able to do all that. So just
Mm-mm.
watch other people that literally are probably in the same situation you are. And that's going to help you grow a lot quicker and figure out what you want to do than, just aiming for the
I
stars on it.
I can't argue with that, and as I always say, there is nothing wrong with that. Another question I have, because we've talked about how you do before this, we talked about how you do special effects, makeup, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Advice for someone who wants to get into body paint for their cosplays, whether it's face, arms, or just full on, yeah.
Um, so if you want, this is how I started out. And it's the only reason I did Buggy from One Piece.
Ooh, and by the way, I do, as I call him, prison uniform buggy because he wears the black and white striped
Yeah, that's
outfit.
that's the next thing we're doing as a group. So woo.
But so
But
yeah,
I started
I
off
have
actually doing
nice.
cloud makeup. So a lot of grease paint and very being able to do very symmetrical shapes and stuff like that, and knowing the shape of my face and like basically the geography of it to get things to look like straight lines and stuff because our faces are not gonna, are not
Mm-mm,
straight or anything or flat.
no.
So if you're into that type of thing, I would recommend looking at clown makeup and seeing how, and drag queens. Drag queens do a lot of very similar
Hmm.
things, especially when it comes to baking, like putting powder on your face and letting it sit and, it's supposed to stay better. Um, So that's what I would do if someone's trying to look into that. There's a couple brands that are pretty popular. Maron is like
Yeah,
the big one.
I've used Maron in the past for some
Hmm.
cosplays, so I can attest how Maron's a good brand. But
Yeah.
I'm sure you can also agree that it's always good to do the arm test to make sure you're
Yes.
not sensitive or allergic because you don't want
Mhm.
to go as buggy and your face is all puffed up.
Yeah, no, definitely, especially too because um and I'm working on doing time lapse videos for these things too, just because I love bonus features. But I use alcohol paint for Buggy's face, and so it won't come off unless I use alcohol to take it off, or to it won't. It's sweat proof and waterproof. So when I went to KimuraCon last year's Buggy, I had the headband on and I took that off and I had his little skull and crossbones or whatever on his forehead and none of that came off of the headband. So I was like, there we go. But with anything, especially special effects makeup, um, listen to the instructions and how to remove things. So for instance, the alcohol makeup, know that you have to use alcohol. And so it's going to dry your skin out. So, work on the prep of like, really making sure your skin's moisturized and it's clean and all of that before doing it. And then knowing how you have to take it off. There's also, what is it called? There is a thing, what is it called? Collodium. Oh my
Mm.
goodness. Rigid collodium. That's what it's called. Rigid collodium. It's one of my favorite things to use because it's very simple. And basically, what it is it's scar makeup. So it's a clear nail polish kind of looking bottle. And you put it on in small, thin layers, one at a time. And it starts to shrink as it dries. And it will make your skin pucker. So it looks like there's, a cut or a scar or something.
Ooh.
But and it's very tempting. Know that you should not just peel it off. Like you should use makeup remover because it will damage your skin.
Mm.
And
Then you'll have a real
for
scar.
yeah, then, and they use it for movies and shows and everything. And, if you're, the thing is you don't want to use it all the time because you definitely, if you have a scar, you have like maybe a character that has like a scar on their face, you're going to do it again the next day, move it over a little bit. You just want to protect yourself. Cosplay is really fun and it's really exciting to try new things. But if you're going to do stuff that's like that, do your research. Don't assume, oh, I just take a wipe and I just wipe this off. And then you sit there. The videos where the person is like, it's not coming off my hands. And they turn to the person with face paint. And you're just like, what do you mean it's not coming off?
And next
Stuff
thing
like
you look
that.
like a Smurf. And next thing you know, you look like a Smurf.
Yeah. So if you're trying to get into that, definitely I would look into drag queens and clown makeup, especially if it's, a fuller look, and not just, kind of a basic makeup if you want, arms and everything else. Um, tattoos too, for the alcohol paint. That actually is a very useful thing to use instead of trying to use tattoo paper. Um, and that again, you can test out however you need to, but there's other options than just, using an eyeliner and hoping for the best.
I mean, I've seen people use like eyeliner or something to make it look like they're like missing a tooth.
Yeah, and there's actually stuff for that. And you can get a lot of this stuff online pretty easy. You can get, I will say the alcohol paint though, pretty expensive for a palette, but what you're getting, you don't use a lot of it. And so you will have that for probably, you know, your whole life
Oh
if you
yeah,
get
no,
one.
definitely.
Um, so, looking at that. But, a lot of this makeup has yeah, you want to make sure that you're not just taking it off and not looking into how you're supposed to take it off and you're not, how you apply it. You don't want to, drown the palette in alcohol and then, do this and then put it on your face. You're going to burn your eyes. Like, there's fumes involved, there's other chemicals. So, just do your research at least before
No,
doing all of that.
I concur. So there's a question I got to ask you because I saw it's a project you've been recently working on. what's the idea behind the chainmail you've been working on?
Mm,
Because I saw your I like took it I like briefly saw your live last night about the chainmail you're working on, and you had your teddy bear's help.
yes. Teddy
So
belt.
yes, t if you can and you're able to, what's the concept behind the chainmail that you've been working on?
So it's something I've always wanted to try out. This is like the first and a half time I've attempted doing it. I tried a couple months ago doing it and I just couldn't figure out the pattern that well. And so I was actually adding more on one section and less on the other. And I just was like, I need to just put this away for now. But I'm working on a mix of Skyward Sword Link and Twilight Princess Link
Ooh.
because I really love both of those designs and it's, the
Oh, it's right, because he does wear chain, and that's what you plan on doing for Anna Mitford, huh?
yeah, so
That's gonna
I'm
be
not gonna do a
cool.
full chainmail outfit. I'm just gonna do, the edges because it's around his sleeves and around like the bottom of the tunic and there's some that goes under the like the chest opening too. But because also too that'd be so heavy. Like
Hmm.
I'm already like
You'll be
holding the
you'll be
chainmail that I'm working on. I'm like, oh, this is like getting there.
you'll be like Gimli in the I think it's Two Towers, or Return of the King,
Yeah,
where he's just
he's just
basically he's just holding it and then just pull the chain mail and it just plops down.
yeah, exactly. No, that's actually, what I've been thinking about too is Lord of the Rings because they made everybody's chainmail. And I
Hmm.
can't remember what the number was, but the either the number of jump rings or the poundage or something was like ridiculous for that.
I mean,
So
chainmail in itself is heavy. I mean, I've seen people even do the soda cap method of chainmail.
mhm. See, yeah, there's so many ways to do things, guys.
But you're like wanting to go full, like almost full authentic with chainmail.
Yeah, I wanted to just try it out. I really like doing um I guess what you would call like busy work, like doing the same thing over and over again and then seeing it kind of grow. So I know how to knit and I know how to crochet, and so this is like a different version of that. But yeah, I just wanted to honestly try it out and figure out how to do it. It took me a hot minute, mostly because I realized this the second time I tried it out. So I had a concussion when I was playing soccer back in high school.
Ooh.
And ever since then, if I look at stripes like on a t-shirt, it really like it messes my head up. Like it moves way too much and it's hard for me to kind of like see it. And so when I first started doing the chainmail, it was definitely something where I was like, oh, these repetitive circles are kind of doing the same thing. And so that's why I was miscounting so much. And you know, I had to scrap that one or undo it at least. But, doing this other pattern, it's a lot easier for me to actually see it. So taking my time with it for sure.
That's fair. So there's a cosplay I want to ask you about, and I'm curious if you did the wig yourself.
Oh boy.
Did you do the wig for Reno from the Final Fantasy remake series? Did you do
I
that wig?
did.
You did what you did. Then Reno has pretty long hair. I feel like his hair looks a much longer compared
Mhm.
to his Advent Children look.
Yeah, oh God, speaking of that, my friend showed me that movie before we went to soccer con.
It's a good movie in my opinion. It's the better Final Fantasy movie compared to Spirits
That's the
Within.
only one I've ever seen. I didn't realize that that franchise was like, I knew that the CGI and everything was really, it's always been kind of ahead.
Hmm.
And so it was like, oh, I didn't realize that they were like making movies from this.
Oh
And she
yeah.
showed me that and I was just like, oh my God.
It's a really good movie, and I can tell you and Bird had a fun time cosplaying as Root in Reno.
Oh my God. Yeah. So fun thing about last year's soccer con, or this last soccer con, I did all my wigs the night before.
You con crunched your wigs?
I did. I was like, I'm not gonna
Yeah,
have a sewing
please.
machine going up there. There's no way. And so I was like, you know what I can do while I'm in a hotel? I can cut hair. So
Own
Reno
your
and
own
Domo
personal
were
salon.
done like the day before.
Wait, who? Who?
So,
Domo?
oh, Doma from Demon Slayer. It's the one with fans, and he's got like a blood stain on his head.
I'm looking at him right. I gotta go back
I
to
don't
your.
know if he's been shown in the anime yet. He's been shown, I think, for like a second.
Yeah, but I gotta give me a minute. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Yeah, um. No, that's Gyu. Is this?
He is one of the demons. I think yeah, he's number two on like the demon roster or whatever.
I can't. I find a picture of him on your Instagram.
Oh, I haven't even shown anybody him actually.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's why. No,
Okay.
yeah, his
And
character,
his name is what?
Doma, it's Douma.
Gouma. Um, Douma. You said?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Oh, I think okay. I think he has been shown. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes. Yeah, I couldn't remember. I honestly like I've read the manga like four times, but I've only watched the first two seasons of the anime, so I don't know
I'm
what people
I'm
have seen
I'm
or not.
I'm way behind on
Mhm.
Demon Slayer. I'm at the part where uh Tanjiro just headbutted Inosuke.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you're like a
I'm
you're first.
way but I'm not even I haven't got to Mugen Train yet.
That's okay, man. It's you get prepared. Just prepare yourself.
Duly
But
noted.
yeah, I did that wig like the night before and partially the morning of. Um, yeah, I was like, all right, I have to figure out what I'm gonna crunch, and I was just like, logically, I can cut hair in a hotel room, so we just did it.
You'll just have hair on the floor, no biggie. And most hotel room floors are wood.
Yeah, I brought my mini broom. I brought extra trash bags. Like I'm prepared. I'm like, there's no way.
It's like you know you're gonna cut hair.
Yeah. I'm just like, if you're gonna, like, even at my house, like, I will, make sure I'm downstairs where we have, hardwood floors and I sweep after every time. And I'm just like, it gets everywhere. It's like glitter. So,
Mhm.
I'm
And
not
s-
about to
and
make anyone deal with it.
it's like sand too. It's rough and coarse just everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Like, I think when we did Reno and Rude, by the end of the day, when I had like taken off like the undershirt, just all this red had like fallen down. So, but luckily, like, that wig was definitely more of like a regular shortcut than it was like Dio's wig is a whole weird shape mess, and Doma's
Oh
wig
yeah,
is also similar.
Dio, is he the one that wears that weird mask that you?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I have seen it, and that cosplay actually was on a cosplay magazine, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Cosplay.
back
Uh,
when Cosplay Realm magazine was still happening, I got featured in there for Dio and for um Alucard from Castlevania and then the Sheikah Slate I made. So
yeah,
he is a he's not I want to make sure the record is clear. I am not a Dio fan. It
you
was
were.
just I had to do it because it was funny. It's more of an inside joke than anything, but I take inside jokes a little too seriously and I'll build a whole cosplay around it. But yeah,
Nice.
doing those wigs versus like a short hair, kind of just spiky, regular
Hmm.
kind of head cut versus, like all these huge shapes. I was like, I can do Reno in like 2 hours. I got this.
I mean, spiked hair and then a long, like a foot long ponytail, pretty
Yeah,
much.
I was like, that's
Pending.
easy. Yeah. No.
I guess now kind of I've never asked this question before. Do you have any like wigs you would like to work on in the future? What's the character's hair you would like to try to replicate for a future cosplay?
Um, Honestly, I just in general want to work more on my wig skills. It's always the last thing I do.
I mean
It's the thing where I'm just like, oh, I'll do that later. I'll get to it.
that's understandable because like the cosplay itself takes a long time and you figure, well, we'll do the long thing first and then the short thing last because,
Yeah.
just magically wave your hands and boom, there's a wig.
Yeah. I
That's not actually
have,
how the process works, but
yeah, exactly. I have more of an issue with like maybe ponytail wigs. There's a character that I want to do from Dororo, Hyakimaru. It's the main or maybe second main character. And it's very simple, but he just has a long ponytail
Wait,
and
what's his
trying to
name?
make it so you can't see like the back of the nape or whatever would be a challenge.
Wait, what's his name?
It's Hiyakimaru.
Hiyaki.
I
Hiyaki.
forget right now the author's name, but it's
Oh,
the
from
yeah,
Dororo.
yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen the anime, never seen the original anime, but I have seen the live action movie for it.
Yeah, there's so many like remakes of it. I mean, it's like one of the
I
classics, you know. It's the guy who
recommend,
wrote what is it, Astro Boy and
yep, because the original anime that came out around that time,
hmm
same art style, but if you get the chance,
hmm
and I will show people of what he looks like. If you get the chance, watch the live action version. It is surprisingly good. But yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
that's the 2019 anime,
yeah.
which was done by one of my favorite artists.
See if I can't
So
find.
that, that art style is just great, especially for that story too. It's just it's just one of the, like a
Yeah.
classic story. And I love that it's been
Here's
redone so many times.
here's his live action version.
I just maybe I gotta look at those notes. I gotta see how they did his hair. But yeah. No, it's just a
Eh,
really cool story and it's got demons and adventure and
Oh yeah, and the man basically. Oh yeah, and here's a cosplay. Just whoever I don't know who this is, but it's pretty
yeah,
good.
that's the version I'll be working on is that
Ooh,
robe. So, and
so
I'm
that's
excited because
definitely a
my
future
favorite part is
cosplay.
weathering. So we're gonna mess it up after I make it, and I'm so excited.
Hyakimaru. Man, I have not seen that movie in a long time. I need to rewatch that now. Such
When
a
did
good.
it come
So,
out?
oh God, let me look at that. I want to say mid 2000s is when I was going through, kind of going off a little tangent. It's when I was going through a live action. It was when I was going through a Japanese film binge from Escape from Vampire Island, Battle Royale, and a few others I'm not going to name because they are very bizarre. Oh God, that's how long it came out. And I remember watching that 2000. Came out in 2007.
Ooh, I was
Ah,
in middle school.
yeah, I was in the eighth grade when that came when I was in the seventh, eighth grade when that movie came out. So it was in 2010 or
Mm.
11 is when I saw it. Really good movie though. I highly recommend watching it. I don't know where you can find it, but it's pretty
Oh, we'll
good.
find it. It's one of my favorites.
Same premise to the anime.
hmm
Um, Now on to what is it like doing big build cosplays? For example, what was it like when you're making Inosuke's head?
Um,
If you want to show a closer up version of that, if you want to.
that guy? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So this was definitely a challenge.
I mean, all that
I
fur.
didn't even know how to start, honestly. So this is my Inosuke head. His little
Really well done
can't
and
see out of him. Everybody
you
asks me that.
you can't not so like it's just black paint through the noses, no like mesh or anything.
Um, the idea was to do mesh, but I was making this, I want to say right when COVID hit. So being able to go out and get new materials, like I couldn't do it.
Was kind of
Um,
impossible.
yeah, so it just turned into like, well, at least it looks like him. And when I put it on, I'll just have my friends like push me where I need to pose or whatever.
I
So
mean,
it's easy to carry around at least. It's really lightweight. But this was definitely a figure it out as I go. I did it in like 2 days, I think. I
two
think it was
days?
two
That's
days.
impressive.
Yeah, it was very last minute. We were doing a couple friends and I were trying to do a Demon Slayer group virtually.
Mm.
So we would do the cosplays, we would take photos and pose, and then we were gonna do like a grouped edit cosplay group so
Hmm.
that it would be like all photoshopped together. Which hasn't even been finished yet. So I crunched for no reason.
Oh,
Um,
someday.
Someday. But basically when I was first starting to figure out like how to do it, um, looked into Kachinka masks, which are Southwest Native American little dolls.
Hmm.
I don't know if people really know what those are or what they look like.
I'm somewhat familiar with them. Yeah, they're kind of like porcelain dolls, but not really, I think.
Um, they're like I think they're mostly made out of wood.
Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of them are black and white.
I'll show a picture of what they
Mhm.
look like.
Yeah, but they're as far as building the head, I didn't even know really how to make a helmet or anything. So, I was looking at people who do furry costumes, and stuff like that. But based on what I actually had at my house already, and based on, this being the first time I'd ever made like a helmet or a mask, I just went with what was familiar with me. And I was just like, I know how to make a cylindrical cap. And then I know how to fill that in with, like foam and other things to like build off of it
All right.
versus, really sculpting into it. So basically on the inside, it's just all black EVA foam, but it's like 10 millimeter. I don't know if you guys can really see it,
Yeah, I
but
can. Oh
it's
wow,
just a
yeah.
huge round cap.
Oh wow. I mean,
And
I don't think even a nose kid can actually see through that his mask.
yeah, I don't know. That's the magic of anime and manga. We're just gonna assume he
The
does.
world may never know.
But yeah, so it's basically a Shinka mask. And then on top of that, I basically took the fur and laid it out over it and upside down and then made, a freestyle pattern basically and just sewed it onto it. So we did our best.
I mean, it seems like it seems you did a really good job, and then plus I imagine not only wearing that, but I imagine wearing the fake male chest, just you felt must have felt sweaty and everything.
Oh, I don't even deal with those. I don't like them. Every time I see them, I just can hear like, them in paper wobbles. I don't like stomach things. It's weird. I'm like, ugh. My friends use those, but no, I ended up doing I won't spoil it for y'all. I ended up doing end of manga um Inosuke. So he's bandaged up, but I'm not gonna
Oh,
say
I've seen many versions of that.
yeah, so I won't go further. But yeah, I did a different version so I didn't have to wear
Nice.
those chest things. I actually want to redo the top I made because um it's so tight, the one I made. But that was also like, a few years ago at this point. So I definitely want to remake it before I wear them again.
Nice. I mean, you've
Yeah.
definitely you made a lot of intricate cosplays from what I've seen. Like, for example, your Sheikah Link, I
Mm,
think I've
yeah.
seen from the Breath of the Wild game.
Yeah, that was actually my first official cosplay.
Oh, that was your first official. Well,
Yeah.
that's impressive for your first
No,
official
I've been
cosplay.
making costumes and random things since I was younger, so so don't
This is
be
like you basically
I'm
like
not
when you're
that
like
cool.
I mean, but like you said, you know what? I just want to go big or go home with my first cosplay. And from what I've seen, and
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it when we did the panel a while back.
Mm-hmm.
It's impressive. Now which leads me to the cosplays you've done, and it's a question I always forget to ask. What is the biggest cosplay you've ever done, and what is the biggest prop you've ever made?
Ooh.
Whether it was like, sewn, crafted, pieced together, 3D printed, whatever.
Mm, I don't do too many like armor builds. I think Sheikah Link was probably the most armored thing I've ever done. Biggest cosplay as far as parts and pieces, I think would have to be a mix between it's probably a tie between my Doma cosplay, which is still not fully completed because there's still like more props I have to make for it. And then Inuyasha is the other one, just as far as like how how much fabric is involved and how like making that wig went.
I mean, he has long hair, not to mention he's wearing like the big puffy shirt and the harem
Yeah.
pants and everything, and like not to mention the claws and the teeth and
yeah, it's a whole thing, and like I love wearing it, but it's definitely it's the most comfortable cosplay, but it is a lot of fabric. So the amount of times I've also had a nosebleed in him is like probably just about every time except for maybe twice,
And not to,
honestly.
he has a pretty big freaking sword too.
Yeah, and I haven't made that yet. I have a couple friends that want to try to do like a Inuyasha baseball group because it's the it's the baseball episode we never got. So we want to try to do
You
that.
gotta love your filler episodes in
Yes.
anime. I mean, we got your baseball episodes, we got your beach episodes, we got
Hmm.
your going to a restaurant episodes. I mean,
Yeah. So
but Inuyasha, I'm just trying to see Inuyasha trying to play baseball and uses his sword.
yeah, exactly.
And
No, you know exactly.
freaking Shippo would be the umpire.
Yes. Oh my goodness, that would be perfect. We do have a shippo. Well, hopefully. I don't know. We have to ask Echo,
Oh
but
yeah, no, I mean I've seen Echo's Shippo and the other one
oh
they did.
yeah,
I
the
can't
Koga. See,
Koga,
that was the
yeah.
thing. We wanted to do like it's Inuyasha's team versus Koga.
But it would just wouldn't it just be Koga and his two brothers or whatever
Yeah.
whoever?
Yeah.
Like, well, you're
He can
kind of
run really fast.
screwed.
He can play all the positions. Yeah, no. But
Now
yeah, piece-wise, definitely Doma had the most things I had to make for him, especially the fans. I had to completely learn how to make a fan. So, and that took
hmm,
forever. But
I mean,
those are the two for sure.
nice. Now into my favorite cosplay questions that you've done and whatnot. What's that one cosplay you haven't done in so long that you would like to bring back?
Um, I don't want to bring Dio back. I'm honestly not a fan of him, but it's really fun to cosplay as him because of the interactions at con. Like I've got, from people being like, "It was you," like yelling at me, like lines from,
Deal.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
People just posing at me, which is really funny.
I've seen the memes and I've seen the videos on
Yeah.
TikTok.
So it's fun to play like the villain, I guess. Again, like I'm not a fan of Dio as a character, but it is really fun to cosplay as him. I had to retire it after Anime Washington when they had it in Tacoma this last year or last January, I think. Um, because I've had that cosplay since I think it was the second cosplay I did. So I did Sheikah Link and then Dio, and so it's been around for a few years and it's fallen apart. So I had to retire it. I don't know if I necessarily want to like remake Dio and bring him back, but I definitely want to get back into making like another cell shaded JoJo cosplay. So it's too fun. It takes
Yeah.
forever to do cell shading, but it's
Oh
worth
yeah, no,
it.
I mean, how do you think, character people who cosplay from Borderlands feel?
Exactly. And I just started playing that the other day and I was like, oh my God, this is why this was so like big, And I'm just like, oh
I
my
mean,
God, this looks so cool.
I can honestly see you cosplay from that. If any, it'd probably have to be Mordecai from the first one.
Who's that? Which one is
He
that?
he's the one who has the bird companion.
Oh, okay,
He
okay.
wears like the goggle mask over his head.
Yeah, I've seen other cosplayers of that. I don't know anyone's name yet, so I just started playing.
Well, you're gonna enjoy the game. It's definitely a fun game for sure. Really good gameplay, really good art style and everything, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Now what's that one cosplay that, as I call them one and dones? It's a cosplay that someone asked you to do, or you were curious about the character, but you're just like, I just don't want to do this anymore, or it would take a lot of like willpower and just everything to cosplay them again. Not Dio, because he's been mentioned quite a few times.
Talk about Dia. Um, One that I did that was kind of a one and done just because I just did it for a quick group cosplay was I did Kiba from Naruto and that was like a 1 day
Ooh,
build or whatever and
he
I just
and he's
haven't
fairly simple too.
yeah like I haven't worn him really since one that one that I went full out on and got tired of it the first the first time I wore it. We did a maid group for One Piece and I did Buggy and
A,
I
a
him
buggy
as a
as a
character.
buggy as a mate. I'm trying to picture it, but at the
It
same
was
time,
at
I don't want to.
KomoriCon this last year.
Oh, I think I did see that. I was at Kuma last November as well, but like
Okay,
just so
yeah.
much was going
I
on.
definitely shared it on my stories, but I haven't. I still have so many pictures I still need to get through from the last few cons and photo shoots, but I I know the live action had come out, and so everybody was really excited about One Piece again, like, more than usual. And
Mm.
oh my God, though, I'm just like, how dare you, Jeff? Like the actor who played him, because everybody loves Buggy now. And
Oh
I'm
yeah,
just
no, I've seen the videos where, especially that one buggy cosplayer that goes around and just flips everybody off.
yeah. And it was fun to do it for a group because my friend really wanted to make the group happen. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then was like thinking back and I was like, I don't the only character that I really, oh, hold on.
Oh, I get to
He's
see.
like, there's a giant boar head in my way. Um, but the only character, like, I grew up watching One Piece very limitedly, depending on when we had cable. But like, I really love Zoro and Brooks
Ooh.
growing up. But since like fifth grade, I hadn't really watched anything. But we were trying to do like a group, and I was just like, well, I have clown makeup already. Might as well just do it. I couldn't walk 2 feet without someone trying to stop and take pictures of us. And I was just like, this is maddening. Like, I
Mm.
know that y'all love this guy, but I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm just trying to get to, I need to get to food. I need
Like,
to use the bathroom.
let me eat or I'll eat you.
I know. One thing I will say though, that I like one of the interactions I had at KomoriCon that made me laugh so hard was this kid came up to me with a book that was open and was just like, would you sign? And I was just like, you want me to sign your notebook?
It better not have been a death note.
It was. And they
Of course
shut
it
it and
was.
they were like, thank you. And I just started losing it. I was like, oh my God, you got me. But also, I was just like, yes, get buggy. So, it was fun, but I definitely, it's that character that in my friend group now, like, it's just a default. They're like, and you can do buggy. And I'm just like, oh, can I? Great. So,
Okay, go
you
ahead.
know,
Sure. I'll go as the homicidal clown that, oh God, what fruit did he eat that makes him
chop chop.
the chop fruit? Yeah.
Mhm. And
God,
his
man.
character design is really cool as far as like, his pieces and stuff. Like
Hmm.
doing when I'm, doing art for Artist Alley, it's like I love the designs of all these characters and that's why I cosplay them. Beyond just, the joking part of it. But yeah, that was one that I was just like, oh my God, I can't walk. Like I literally couldn't take a couple steps without
I
somebody
mean,
like stopping us. So and I'm
uh,
not I'm not a huge fan of so much attention.
oh
And
no,
so
I trust me. I get that with cosplayers. It's just this like I'm cosplaying because, my friends want me to cosplay. Other than that,
yeah.
I get it.
So
It takes a lot for someone to come out of their shell for that kind of stuff too.
yeah, I feel like it's definitely easier knowing I'm dressed up to be like, oh, okay, yeah, people want my attention to like take pictures and, do whatever, which is fine. But I have never just like my friends walking with me dressed as Maid Kobe, and I'm just looking at her like, I'm like, we need to run through
Like
this hall in order to
I'm
get,
uncomfortable.
yeah, I was like, oh my God. Because I think at that point too, with the Death Note moment, we were trying to get to the One Piece group to
Hmm.
do a meetup. And I was like, we were trying to get to it. And on the way, like, it took an extra, like, 15 minutes to even walk down the main hallway. And I was like, oh my God, this is obnoxious. But that's what happens when you dress as everyone's favorite clown
Mm.
right
I mean,
after
not, I
the live
mean,
action
yeah,
comes out.
and how well the character was like, and how well the actor did. Like, oh my God, he did really
Oh,
well.
yeah, no. What's it? That guy's been in a lot of other things. I
Yeah,
think he did a lot of Marvel stuff, like
yeah,
Marvel TV
yeah,
shows.
he did. A buddy of mine told me about how he was like in Agents of Shield or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. So
Um,
big break.
Right. Now what has been your all-time favorite cosplays? I call it a comfort cosplay. It's a cosplay you like doing no matter what, whether it's just for fun or you're at a con and it's just like, I want to cosplay this character because it's comfy. I like
Mm.
cosplaying them and I just don't care.
Um, I would say my Olympic Zagreus. Um,
Oh yeah, I saw pictures of that, like the one where you're going like
yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
the
do it because I'll hurt my
stretching.
I can't do that because I'll hurt myself.
No, it's all good. That one is I got a tracksuit online and then my friend had a Cricut and I drew out all the little decals and stuff and basically just embellished it so that it looks more like, the whole reason for the game is, he's trying to make it to Mount Olympia and be with the other gods and stuff. And I was like, well, this would be one way to do it. So, made like kind of a joke too. It just was like, we'll make a Zagreus, be at the Olympics so he can go or whatever. But it's yeah, just a jumpsuit or a tracksuit and tennis shoes and um a wig. Like that's kind of it.
Oh yeah, here
Yeah.
that's really well done, and I can't imagine how long the wig made to get that cloud spiked hair.
Actually, I like with Reno, like the shorter spiked wigs, I got that. It's everything else. And if it's a ponytail, I don't even want to try. So, but yeah, it's one of my favorite outfits to wear just because it's super comfortable. Like I used to play sports, so being able to just wear a tracksuit, I'm like, "Oh my God, this is
It,
great."
it it's basically become second nature at this
Yeah,
point.
and if it gets too hot, I can just take the jacket and, it still looks like I'm in, cosplay.
Like
So,
people will know who you're cosplaying as.
yeah, especially with the little laurels around my head. Like it took a few people. They were like, "Are you Zagreus?" And then they would see the Hades across the back and like the little Olympic, decals, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, this is such a good idea."
Not to mention, we're getting a sequel to the game soon.
I know. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I know that it's on like what is it, Steam right now.
Hmm
I'm a Nintendo player,
You're
so
you're you're waiting for it to come on console
I'm
soon.
waiting.
Trust
I'm
me.
being so
There's a lot of games I'm waiting for come to console soon too. So just
yeah.
like
But that one of honestly when that game came out, like when COVID hit, I was like, this is the game that we needed. Like, oh my God, this is like it came out right when everyone was kind of stuck at home and whatever, and the art's really great, the story's really cool, the voice acting is
oh, it's
great.
top notch. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Even though like, we were chatting a bit before, like I'm not much of like a dungeon crawler top down kind of video
Hmm
player, but that game is addicting. It is
It's
so
definitely it's I feel like yeah, it's on console and everything, but I feel like in retrospect, it feels it should be a handheld console game, in my opinion.
Oh, it totally could. It's very much like a Mario Bros kind of thing where you can just
Hmm.
keep going. But yeah, and even after you like, complete the game or finish it, there's still more afterwards
hmm
that you can keep doing. And it's just like they really just treated us to a really good game. Because especially like coming from the artist perspective too, when COVID hit, a lot of artists were taking breaks or were just
hmm
like, oh, well, if I don't have cons to go to, then I don't feel like I want to draw anything. And, everyone was pretty in a depressed state in general.
Oh yeah, no.
And then Hades came out and I started seeing everyone draw again.
Oh yeah, and
That
like or
was
like when
awesome.
Animal Crossing New Horizon came out too.
Hmm. Yeah, just like people having something to collectively love again. And as whether it's like a distraction from what the world was going through or just in general being inspired again.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no.
because like I'm not happy that COVID happened, but it did give me a break, from doing all that gallery work and stuff. So, it made me like completely stop doing stuff, which was a good break for me. But, it was really sad to see people, including myself, just kind of stop doing stuff. And then Hades and other games and anything that was like, mostly video games. I've noticed people just started, yeah, creating again. And people
Oh yeah.
started planning cosplays again and stuff like that. So,
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely cool. By the way, I know I forgot to mention it. congrats on being a guest at what was it, Beaver State last year, I think it was. You got to be a guest at
Yes.
a yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
thank
well,
you.
yeah, no, congratulations on what was it like being a guest, cosplay guest and
Ooh.
everything. We've talked about all this other stuff. I figured we got to talk about what was like being a cosplay guest.
Yeah, first time guesting. Me and me and Bird just wanted to try it out, honestly, and we figured a smaller con would be a good place to kind of like start so that it wasn't like overwhelming or too strict or I don't know. I don't know all the rules of being a guest necessarily, but it was definitely a good experience as far as like because you had a booth and you could like put your props out and other costumes out and talk to people and like having conversations with people about oh, you're a cosplayer and like this is what I'm trying to work on and like because I am huge on talking shop. I love
Mhm.
talking about how I built stuff or giving people ideas for how to do something or telling them what kind of materials or techniques I use or whatever. Like I love doing that. So it was really awesome in that sense. The and then we had to do the cosplay contest at the end. And that was so stressful for a couple of reasons. But the main one was that they were having people come down the aisle towards us as judges. And so we got to look at stuff for like 30 seconds. And then we had to decide, who was placing. And I was just like,
Yeah.
this is not enough time.
Oh yeah, trust me. I
Yeah.
as someone who's judged, I
Hmm.
mean, just in general when it comes to judging or hosting a cosplay contest, no matter what the con is, it's always there's something that's gonna always go wrong.
Yeah, and like there's one of the bigger issues with that one was just that things were handwritten. And
Hmm.
so Consul, who was hosting, couldn't quite read some of the things people had written down, which was one thing. But then when we were like, deliberating and looking through stuff and trying to read people's handwriting for like the details about their cosplays, it was really difficult to realize who, especially when you were talking about the more intermediate, more what do you call it? I
Beginner.
what is it? There's like they had the kids competition, they had beginners, they had intermediate, and then there's like kind of masters, I guess, or
Mm.
more advanced. And it was really hard to tell because some people made stuff that look, you know, factory made in the best sense possible. Like it looks professional. It looks like, just every stitch is perfect. And so, we would take note of, how something looked from, us being up on a stage to looking down just a small little runway
Mhm.
and have 30 seconds to figure out what we thought about it and then try to go back and see like, okay, so we really like these ones, but we have to double check if, if made most of it or if it was actually bought or whatever. And which is fine either way. It just was hard to figure out what we were trying to do
Mm.
because things were not easy to read. And it was, you got 30 seconds to decide what you thought about someone's entire outfit. Like, so
Yeah, no. And this is no disrespect to the con or anything. Or and no disrespect to anyone, because again, when you're judging a cosplay contest, it's always going to be difficult.
yeah, and there's different ways to do it. The way that that one was done, where it was like a runway, is not
Mm.
my favorite way of. I've been in contests too. I
Oh, that's
love
right, huh?
that's where it's at.
You like prejudging, you like walking up on the stage and like full on showing your cosplay. I get it.
Yeah, and you're talking to the judges and they're like, having you move around and showing you like, oh, this is how I made this. And you're talking to them and you know, it takes more time, but I think you literally get 2 minutes to talk with, the whole group of judges. And then they do the actual whole ceremony and contest where they have everyone come back through, do a little pose on the stage, come off, and then they announce who won. Like
Hmm.
it's a lot smoother in my opinion. And it's just I feel like people are actually I feel like there's actual like a competition happening where it's very fairly judged and there's a lot more um it's just genuinely just a better way to decide who places.
Oh yeah,
versus
no.
trying to trying to figure it out in 30
Oh
seconds
yeah,
and
no,
then
no,
trying
no.
to be like,
Trust me.
okay, was this person, where's their piece of paper that is handwritten and we can't really read it? And
Oh
you
yeah, no.
know,
I completely get that.
it was
Um,
fun judging, but I definitely like I would love to guest more and do more of those things and judge because I mean, I've been building stuff and making things for most of my life, but
so you have an
definitely.
idea. You know what to look for.
What was that?
You know what to look for, basically.
Yeah, like I'm not so established in the cosplay community, but again, I love talking shop. I love seeing how people make things. I love that people are making stuff, whether even if it is store bought, the way that they're, using what they bought, basically, like I want to see people be excited about being there. That's
Oh yeah,
literally
no.
it.
That's all that really matters.
Yeah.
Um,
So would love to
that
do more of it, but the first one was
well,
scary.
looking forward to seeing you as a guest again for Anna Medford this year.
hmm Yeah, I asked them about guesting for Annie Medford. It's just because the last the first time I guessed it was that first cons like debut.
Oh yeah, Beaver State
Yeah.
up in Bend, I want to say it was.
Yeah. And Medford, like Annie Medford has been around for, a few years
Since
and
2018.
yeah, and it's definitely geared more towards like anime. Obviously, it's in the name,
Mhm.
but that's more of like what, you
You're
know,
familiar with.
yeah, because if someone
And,
comes up to me, there was a lot of cosplays. I had no idea what they were. That was the other issue because it was a lot more comic styled of a con. So we had
Mhm.
people that were like, from the Ninja Turtles and from, what is it? What was the one that I kept asking them? I'm like, what was this again? Um, it was superhero stuff, which if you're showing me X-Men, I got you. That was my favorite cartoon growing up. But if you show me, more recent Marvel things, I'm just like,
Mhm.
you look great. Like what?
No, I completely get it. Now on to so we already talked about cosplays you're working on.
Mhm.
The Skyward Link, the Twilight Skyward Link,
Yeah.
as I call it.
Sky Twilight Link.
Skylight Link.
Yeah.
And how you plan on doing Hyakimaru, I think, from Dororo.
hmm
What's your dream cosplay? Like, is cosplay you always want to do, but it's just had not in the budget or the skill set yet? Like, you haven't reached that, you haven't leveled up yet to that point where you want to go all out with a character that you've always wanted to cosplay as.
Um, I'm trying to think. I'm definitely, so I'm gonna do Skyward Twilight Link for Annie Medford. I also really want to be able to finish the end of Game Zagreus. Um, that is, I guess that's more of like a dream cosplay in the sense that I've wanted to do it for so long, and finally have the time to. Except, you know, the outfit is, if you're playing Hades, he has his regular outfit, and then at the end there's a portrait of him that's a little more gaudy and a little more, um, longer robe and fabric and everything's very fancy. But I grew up, part of why I was interested in like clown makeup and stuff was I was also really interested in the Venice Carnival, which happens in Venice every year.
Ooh, car
Um,
the good old Carnival.
yeah, and so, they have these really intricate, really detailed and decorated outfits. And so I've been wanting to do Zagreus's End of Game, but with that kind of theme behind it, where it would be like a lot more tiny details, a lot more, you know, varieties in fabric and that kind of thing. Still be the End of Game Zagreus, but then also have this like, because I'm all about details. I love getting in there and adding, extra little beads and edging and things like that. So I guess that's kind of the dream cosplay. The only other cosplay that I dream of is actually remaking Sheikah Link because it is falling apart at this point. when I was at KomoriCon last time I wore it, I was walking and could hear things snapping and like,
Oh no.
breaking.
So that would be, as I call it, that would be your cosplay mishap. You take one step, you hear jink, jink, like
Yeah.
what the, like, God damn it.
Yeah. I was talking to another friend who was also Link, and they were like, "Oh, you look so great." And I'm just like, I'm falling apart. It's just
Both
like,
both literally and mentally.
yeah, it's just like, a lot of again, that was like the first time I did any armor stuff or like a whole cosplay. At that time I was working, I want to say 5 or 4 jobs. And so my body was just different. I was, a different weight. I was, doing a bunch of other stuff. And so now, fast forward, the costume fits different. It's older, pieces are falling apart.
And not to
There's
mention it was your
learned
first
a lot more.
cosplay too.
Yeah. So, there's just that's one of those things where I learned a lot as I was making it, but couldn't really go back. So, knowing a lot more about how people use magnets to make armor stay to things, and
Oh,
stuff
even
like
like
that.
they even use like magnets in their wigs too.
Yeah. So, that was definitely um I love that cosplay. I got good pictures of it and I love it, but it definitely needs to be redone.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, it's just one of those things where it's like, again, I was figuring it out as I was going and was also using a knit fabric for the bodysuit, which if, is a hot mess to work with on a sewing machine. So a lot of that actually too is hand stitched. So because I couldn't make it go through the sewing machine, like you would usually use like a serger for that,
Mm.
just because it's so stretchy. But yeah, that's also part of why when I was walking, I could hear things breaking and snapping, and I was just like,
Good old cosplay mishaps. Not every cosplayer wants to admit they've had a mishap, but it happens more often than not.
oh, I will be the first one to be like, oh, my button fell off.
So now onto my favorite questions for those who are familiar with this, and you already answered the cosplay mishap one. Have you ever had, as I call it, awkward, weird WTF convention moments for something like that actually happened to like, yeah, okay, I gotta go this way.
Mhm.
What's been
Um,
your most WTF moment at a convention, whether it be like recent or back in the day?
I mean, honestly, there's two that come to mind. One of them, one of them is also something that happens, I feel like almost every con I've been to, where there is unfortunately a weird, creepy man photographer involved. So, um, just being very much kind of aggressive in the sense of they don't introduce themselves. They go straight up to you and like, okay, I'm taking your picture. Here, pose like this. And you're just like,
They're
who are
not a
you?
real
What's going
they're
on?
not a real they're not a professional photographer if they don't ask and mention who they are. I'm just saying that right now.
Yeah. And it's just it's hard when you have to deal with it, but also something, and we're talking about, pre-COVID and now, seeing a lot of younger cosplayers who are new to the
Mm.
environment, watching that happen to them and then having to get involved
It's
it's
like you have to
so
like
not
you have
great.
to like the cosplay parent like that scene from Mrs. Doubtfire, like, help is on the way,
Yeah,
dear.
exactly. That's totally how it feels, especially when, and there's no shame to how you cosplay, like, but unfortunately, majority is people who aren't wearing like a whole lot of clothing, and they tend to be younger women
Mm,
or
yeah,
femmes,
that
and it's just like, you need to get away from her right now.
oh, just that
So,
I've noticed a surge in that where younger cosplayers. I even considered like, like the younger cosplayers like in their teens when they're wanting to cosplay characters like Junko Inoshima from Danganronpa
yeah.
or other characters like does your parent know that you're cosplaying as a psychotic yandere?
Yeah, and like what is it? Just that game in general. I'm just like, oh my God. But
Mm. Like
yeah, I'm like,
how do you
it
know this
shouldn't,
game?
it shouldn't equate to someone feeling like they can just be weird. And,
No,
it's
like
just, no.
they're not the character. This isn't Disneyland where they have to stay in
Yeah.
character. These are, I mean, the people who work at Disneyland are normal people as well, and you need to
Mhm.
respect their boundaries as well. anyone in costume, you need to respect their boundaries. Like, don't ask them a bunch of questions, or at a con, like, don't ask them, oh, do the thing from the thing, do the thing. Like, no, I'm here at a con to enjoy the con. I'm not your personal toy, so to
Yeah,
speak, you
and like
know?
that happened to me in Phoenix where me and my friend were like beach buggy and core zone, and someone yelled at me just like, "Oh, you fucking clown." And I was just like, "I am. You're so vigilant." But it's just one of those things where you're like, just keep walking. Because if they're not gonna like, you know, obviously they just wanted to like yell at me versus be like, oh, I like your cosplay or whatever. Or even if people yell the name of the character, it helps in the sense of like, especially when I'm Link, I have ears on and a wig. I can't hear. So if someone yells Link, I go, oh, okay, like my attention. But when they're obviously yelling in like a weird, like I
The
want
g-
your time and energy and
the
all of
good
your
old
attention. It's just
the good
like,
old notice me senpai kind of thing.
yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
like, and personally, like, I'm just not the person to deal with it very well. Or not very well. I just don't have time for it. And so I will just walk away.
No, I completely understand that. Like, you're at a con to have fun, not to deal with all that obscene
Yeah.
rhetoric. Get out.
The forever stories, especially
Hmm.
like at your artist alley booth where you can't really escape. People just want to talk your ear off, which if it's about something that you both are genuinely talking about, then like cool. But oh my God, the amount of people who are like, oh, if you only use this color, oh, if you drew this character, I bet it would be blah. It's just you're just like, okay, what? Please leave.
What? Huh? Are you an artist? Are you the one running this booth? I didn't think so. Get the out.
Yeah.
Get your and leave, please.
Yeah.
You're
No,
you're
there's a
you're
lot of
you're
those
you're sca-
moments.
you're scaring the customers away.
Yeah, there's definitely like the creepy photographer instances, which also too, like it got to the point where I was posting and still do before I go to a con, like, hey, if you feel creeped out or if you're having a bad time and you see me, you're free to come ask me for help. Because again, I worked at huge festivals and did Comic Cons and all that. So it's
You even worked RCC, like the biggest convention in Portland and
yeah,
Oregon. So like you've really, you've not just done the battle, but you've done the full on freaking war.
yeah. Which was led by like the best volunteer coordinator. His name was Drew. He doesn't do it
Shout out to
anymore, but
Drew.
Drew was the best. Honestly, if he could have just been my boss for like any other job, I would have totally done it. But yeah, like, again, especially working at festivals where people use drugs and are doing, whatever. If they're having not a great time, it's like being able to know how to intervene with that and how to like especially if someone's having a panic attack at a con, because I've seen that plenty of times. It's
Mm.
just a lot going on. Being able to talk to someone and letting them know, like, hey, it's okay that you're, having a minor freak out. Like, yeah, this is a lot. Let's go figure out how to take care of you, So
Let's go find the info booth. Let's go find security, something
yeah,
to where
let's
you're
go get
not.
ice cream, like let's get you a
I mean,
pop.
I'm not. I would never pass up. I would never pass up ice cream. Are you kidding?
Yeah. So, there's that aspect of it. But the other um, weird thing that's happened to me at con, which was a lot more harmless, and it was just very much a what the F moment. I was like, what is
Mhm.
happening? And it kind of relates to like, newer people coming into cons and not knowing the etiquette, maybe. I was dressed
Mhm.
as Olympic Zagreus, and I have, the contacts for it. And one of them is a sclera or a half sclera lens
Mhm.
and the other one's like a regular green eye. But this kid came up to me and just was like, "Oh, what's going on with your eye?" And I looked at him, I was like, "Oh, it's a contact," because I didn't quite understand what he was asking me. And he was just like, "Oh, I don't agree with that," and kind of walked off.
Like, you know.
And I looked at his friends and I looked at him and I was like, "Okay." And I like started laughing and walked away because I was like, then I will get out of your way, sir. But, later on, his friends saw me again and they were just like, hey, we really like your Zagreus cosplay. And I think it was in a way to try to be like, we're sorry for our friend saying we were just,
Definitely must have been their first time at a con then.
it definitely felt like that might have been the situation because it made no sense, honestly. I have no idea what, I still don't know why he said it the way he did or. whatever. But you kind of just gotta shrug and be like, okay, you go do your thing then.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
honestly, that's like the worst thing that's happened.
Mm.
That was just really confusing. It just
Like,
did not make sense.
and you know, internet is free. Read the rules, read the cons guidelines and everything. It's not that hard, but I feel like, you know, I don't get this thing in general where people feel like, well, I paid for this, so I should be able to do whatever I want. Like, no, you paid for this to have a good time, not be a complete freaking jackass.
Yeah.
And I say that with a strong J, like, you know, be
Yeah.
respectful, don't be a prick, don't be a dick. You
Yeah.
know, it ain't that hard. Like, it's sad that this 5-year old has better etiquette than this 30 something year old adult, which is like kind of sad how kids have more respect than adults at cons. It just freaking blows my
Yeah.
mind.
I feel like a lot of it was lost with COVID. I feel like a huge part of it too, which kind of relates back to the like the creepy photographer thing is when, before COVID, a lot of us were sharing information and spreading around the word about, maybe this photographer is dangerous, this
Hmm.
person is, grooming younger cosplayers, this, things like that. And when COVID hit, everyone's just so like out of it. Everybody is just so focused on themselves, which is totally valid. But I feel
Hmm.
like a lot of that momentum about those more dangerous people kind of lost its momentum. And then now that people are starting to go back to cons, they're sneaking kind of back into it. And a lot of the younger cosplayers don't know about those people, So there's a lot of that kind of I've noticed too. And like one person that I really am uncomfortable around and don't like, he snuck back into my life for a hot second a couple weeks ago. And I was just like, no, no.
Mm.
So, you know,
Oh yeah,
it's just
no.
the
I also another thing because it rarely gets mentioned. Please take a shower if you're going to cons. I know some people really can't help because you can shower so much and it's just a glandular thing and everything. You know, some people can't help. They take so many showers, but the smell's still there. So I understand that. But if you choose to not shower, shower, deodorant. Ugh.
yeah, especially at bigger cons. I don't feel like
Hashtag wash your
yeah.
ass, as my friend Kat
We're
would
gonna
say.
start we're gonna start a whole campaign. No, but you're in a group of people. We're all wearing a bunch of stuff. I get it. But yeah, definitely don't choose to not take care of yourself hygienically,
Please.
especially if you're wearing the same cosplay over. You don't that's just I don't want to say gross. It's gross, but it's
Like,
not
or
good for
at
you.
least, you know, wash it if you're gonna wear it again the next day.
Oh yeah,
Um,
speaking of like real quick, a trick you can do for cosplays that are maybe more delicate or you can't really just like throw them in the washing machine is you can use you have to be an adult unfortunately to get it, but you can get alcohol, like pure like 90 proof 120 proof alcohol and put it in a spray bottle and spray it on it and it will just kill the bacteria. So there's that.
interesting tip.
Just a little note.
So now on to what's been your favorite convention moment? Like to this day, it's something you always remember because it was like the most coolest thing ever to happen to you.
Hmm. I'm like trying to think. It's kind of a hard one because most of the good times that I like very like I cherish and hold dearly are definitely the photo shoot moments of being with like my group, my friends.
Hmm.
The amount of times that like one of us is either coughing or choking or just out of air because we're all laughing so much and just having, a good time. Like that's honestly it. And we had a really good time at the hotel during SoccerCon with that type of thing. I
I
won't
feel like
mention
after
what the photos were of, but it was
mm,
very funny. It was rude in Reno for sure, but it was a mess. It was so funny. Um, but those are definitely the times I cherish. Um, as far as like really big moments, like when I first started and went to Chibi Chibi Con as Chico Link, I entered the contest and that was the first one I had done. Um, and so I was just like completely like, I don't even know, like just not thinking anything, as far as winning. And then I got best like rookie. And it didn't even register that they had called me. I was just like, oh, cool, somebody won. And I started clapping, and my friend's like, that was you, and like pushed me. And I was like, oh, me. So, that was cool in the sense of like feeling really good about where I was as a creative person outside of the gallery crap and being like at Comic-Con and being a lot more with like the community that I actually enjoyed being around. And then, my first cosplay contest, won and was just like, whoa, this is crazy. Um, and a lot of that too, in like a bittersweet sense. And part of also why I started cosplaying was because I had my auntie Kimberly who like was super encouraging, super, she was an artist too. She was, really awesome. But when I started, or even thinking about cosplaying, like I would talk to her and just be like, oh, I don't know if I want to do all this, or, I don't like, again, I don't really like attention on me. Like spotlight's kind of a little too much for me. But
Understandable.
yeah, and I was just like, oh, I don't know, because then people are gonna be looking at me and stuff. She's like, yeah, well, just do it. And I was just like, okay.
I'll have to,
That's all I said.
I'll have to bleep that second F word out.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like I get people will cuss. I get it. You know, you're allowed to cuss on here.
No,
Just when it comes to certain curse words,
I am
they
the
will have
worst
to be.
at it too. I've actually been very tame during
Oh,
this.
oh yeah, you have a mouth like a sailor then.
No, but that whole moment and like, having her behind me in the sense of like knowing because she worked with me too in the art world, just like having her support and then her encouraging me and then actually winning like the first time I tried doing anything and was just like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And so I was like super excited to just show her, like, dude, I placed. This is crazy, so that will forever be like a great memory, going to Chibi Chibi Con and actually trying to be a cosplayer. So
Nice.
it was just a good time. It was a good year.
Oh, it sounds like it was. So last question before we end this and have you drop your links and everything. Just any last minute advice you'd like to throw out there for those who are listening and are watching this?
Um, I guess in the sense of in general, just being a creative person, like I can't stress enough, um, do this because you want to. um make cosplays because you want to do those things, try out new techniques because why not, don't be too afraid to try either a different type of cosplay, a different type of character, even if you don't know who the character is, like it doesn't matter. Be a
No.
fake fan and be a fantastic friend is what we like to say. you know
I
um
mean,
things like that. And then like unfortunately, with things like social media, there's a lot of pressure that people feel to have certain numbers of likes and followers or whatever. And it's just like,
mm,
it's not worth it. It's not worth your mental health. And
no, it's not.
one thing I will say though, stop doing blackface. I don't know why it's happening still, but stop.
Mm,
Everybody, that's like such a broadcast. Stop doing that. It's not worth it. It is not, it doesn't make your cosplay better or more, what is it, authentic or correct or whatever. But yeah, yeah, just had to say it. It's
no,
annoying.
I completely agree on that. Like there are like I get it, the character may look like in Hazbin Hotel with Alistair, I've seen people just like there are ways to make your skin look like a light pale gray or like make your skin look like I get it, you know, if you want to cosplay like Noob Saibot from Mortal Kombat. I know his face is like black, but all you have to do really is just like wear a mask and it's just this part black
Mhm.
from Mortal Kombat. Like
Yeah.
just like that. Like,
Yeah. And just in general, any type of like, you know, racial change to your
mm,
skin, or when people use, unfortunately, like wig tape to make their eyes more narrow or whatever.
mm,
It's 2024, y'all.
Nope, I'm with you on that. You don't just because the character looks Asian doesn't mean you need to make yourself look Asian. Like, yeah, they're characters in anime from Japan, but you don't have to.
No, and it's just weird. And like,
No, I agree.
people again, like I feel like especially with the pressure of social media and people becoming these weird little mini celebrities, it's just like you don't have to look just like the character. you know, we all appreciate that you are dressing up in ode to this character in general. So like just do you, you know.
No,
But
I completely agree on that.
yeah.
Last but not least, would you like to drop your links, your socials below so people can follow you to stay up to date with your cosplays and conventions that you'll be going to attending?
Yeah, I am Mutt Rib Cosplay and on Instagram. But then I go by Mutt Rib on my art Instagram. I have a Kara account. I just made TikTok. I don't know what's gonna happen with it, but I made it. um, and yeah, I usually just use Instagram to post which cons I'm gonna be at. Oh, I also have a Twitter. I forgot about that. It's forgettable, but anyway.
Oh yeah, no, no, no. Trust me, I have one too, and I barely use the damn thing.
Yeah, I keep my Instagram pretty up to date as far as, which cons are next in my bio, and my stories are pretty much always full of some sort of work in progress or something like that. So, yeah, go ahead and follow me on those if you want.
Nice.
But yeah,
So I think that should do it again, Mutt. Thank you for coming on for Cosplay Contacts. Get to know that cosplayer. Hope to have you on again. Looking forward to seeing you at Anime Medford as well. Looking forward to
yeah,
your booth and of course interviewing you at con as well this year.
yeah. No, thanks for being patient. I know this interview itself was like over a
Oh
year.
no, no, trust me. Trust me. It's I always work with the people's schedule, especially if they are not in this country. And trust me, when you're trying to get an interview with someone in a completely different time zone, it's not always easy.
Yeah, no. Thanks for the understanding.
Oh, of course. And as always, I'm Wayne the Unknown. Until next time, thank you for listening, and as always, thank you for watching.